Hi there. My name is Paul Sargent, and today we'll be talking about the Catholic Reformation. Now, if you've been following these videos, we've gone through Luther's Reformation, and then we've seen how that Reformation spread throughout Europe. And today we're going to take a look at how the Catholic Church responds to all of these challenges, which are saying that the Catholic Church is, in many ways, wrong about the way they've been doing things, not only their practices, but also their beliefs. But do keep in mind, it's the practices of the Catholic Church that initially become the big thing, which start the Reformation. You know, the practices, those things that they're doing, and it's not so much an attack on the actual ideas of Catholicism until it becomes that way. So here we go. Well, so the Catholic Church decides that they've got to deal with this threat, and they pull together in what becomes known as the Council of Trent. Now, pulling together church councils is nothing new. It happens in times of real church crises whenever the Catholic Church needs to take a look at real challenges to what's going on. And this becomes incredibly important because it really establishes what the Catholic dogma, this is a very misunderstood word, but the belief, the actual systematic Catholicism will be for the next 400 years. And so, I mean, for a very, very long time, this is it. And it's important to understand that they say that their ideas about the way things work are absolutely correct. The Bible, church traditions, and the writings of these church fathers are all valid sources of religious interpretation. They reaffirm the idea that salvation is not just faith, but by good works as well, these going out and doing good things. They reaffirm the idea that there are 7 sacraments, most of which have been taken away by in Protestant faiths, and they reaffirm the idea of transubstantiation, that idea that during communion that the body and blood of Christ are actually present in the wine and the bread that is used for that. So they reaffirm all of that. They also reaffirm the idea of monasticism, of being able to pull away from society and work inside of monasteries. They reaffirm the celibacy of the clergy, because many of these Protestant reformers and ministers and pastors are allowed to get married and allowed to have children and all of that. And they reaffirm the concept of purgatory, which most all Reformed churches or Protestant churches have thrown out completely as not being a thing that they see justified inside of the Bible. They then publish the Index of Forbidden Books, and this is a list of all the books which are forbidden within Catholic lands and forbidden for Catholics to read, and they include anything that supports Protestantism or is critical of the Church. They are completely banned from Catholic countries, and the leaders of those countries are urged to put punishment on for possession of those books. They do, however, go through and reform the church, and mostly this has to do with some of the practices that they agree have gotten a bit out of control. So just to make sure that you understand, they reaffirm all of the beliefs of Catholicism, that the ideas are correct, but they admit in the Council of Trent that some of the things that people in the church have been doing have been wrong, and it's time to get some discipline going inside of the church. So they do change this. They curb the abuses in the sale of indulgences. They don't get rid of the idea of indulgences, but they do say that selling them just to raise money is not something that they could do. They completely stopped the sale of church offices to people from rich families, preferring a more educated approach to church offices. Bishops are given far greater control over the clergy that are underneath them. so that they can oversee them and make sure they're doing the right thing. And they do establish seminaries, which are schools to train priests. Now these deal with a lot of the problems that had arisen, including the sale of indulgences and selling church offices and uncontrolled priests and all of this, and also uneducated priests, most of whom couldn't read Latin. So they do all of these things to say, yes, we understand there are some things which need to be changed. They also established the Jesuits as a new religious order, and within the Catholic Church there are a number of these religious orders, sort of subgroups within Catholicism. And the Jesuits had as their makeup basically three goals. First of all, education as a way to reform the church. If people are more educated, especially clergymen, and the people about religion, then the church will be better off. They're very much about preaching the gospel to pagan peoples, and this is a reaction to, even though we haven't studied this yet, it's a reaction to the discovery of new lands in the New World. And it's a reaction to the discovery of new peoples as the Portuguese and the Spanish, and increasingly the Dutch and the English, start spreading out into the Spice Islands in India and Africa and all of these other areas. You have these people who are completely pagan. Jesuits go out and convert them. And then they commit themselves to fight Protestantism. And it's this guy, Ignatius Loyola, who is really the founder of the Jesuit faith. And they do oversee the Inquisition, so there is a very nasty side to at least this initial part, but all part of trying to get rid of Protestantism. Now, take a moment here, because it's very easy for this story, when told, of the Protestant Reformation to become a story of right versus wrong. Right being, very often Protestantism is painted as right, as just a whole, and the Catholics are wrong. Understand that the Catholic Church had maintained for hundreds of years that they were the chosen church that was fighting for the souls of people against the forces of Satan. And they continue that fight, believing that people who have converted to Protestant faiths have been deceived by the devil. And it's their job to kind of get on the right side. So, is it a success? This is really the big question. Well, in some places, yes, especially southern Germany and Eastern Europe, Catholicism continues. Catholicism becomes even stronger, and so those are held out. In the Papal States, which are now which is an area controlled by the Pope in Italy, all at least overt, I guess is the best word, heresy is completely stamped out. The Jesuit schools become some of the finest schools in Europe, with lots of things. And even today, Jesuit schools are really known for being some very, very great schools. But, and this is sort of like the biggest part of it, is that even though they did all of these things, they couldn't stop the Reformation. So the Reformation had taken on and had become too much of a force by the time the Catholic Church held the Council of Trent, that they were unable to stop it and turn all those people back. Now, another part of this is Baroque art. And Baroque art is something that you may or may not already have studied, but I would like to take a few minutes to go through how it reflects the Catholic Reformation. Because Catholicism is a lot about the mystical properties of religion and the unknowability of God and His purpose and all of that. So the characteristics of the art is it's really a concrete but very emotional way to show the power of the Catholic Church. And the art form really seeks to overwhelm the viewer because of its grandeur, because of how big things are. The strong emotion, movement becomes really big, huge spaces, and then a whole unity, so that the entire piece surrounds one major theme. Some of the biggest Baroque artists include Bernini, who builds the entire colonnade. I don't have a picture out here, but if you get a picture of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, even modern day, there's a whole colonnade area outside of it which sort of encircles it, and that's designed to sort of bring you in and point you towards St. Peter's as being this magical and grandiose kind of place. He also designs the canopy for the high altar, which is this part right here, and it's also then this part right here. And then builds lots of fountains in Rome, all of which show the power of the church and the beauty of the church. Here is a close-up of the ecstasy of Saint Teresa, and you can see that there is just sort of, not only incredible detail in the figures here, and the way that they're laid out, very, I don't know that I quite throw it in with Michelangelo, but he's pretty darn good, Bernini. But then also the emotion of this moment, and with the rays coming down, and the look on her face, and all of this, it's in a piece. Caravaggio becomes one of the big ones as well. Very, very highly emotional scenes, but he's really known for his dark and light, because it creates this sense of drama. You can see, looking at this picture here on the left, very, very dark areas, but the things that he wants to highlight are shown very light. Now, he is criticized because he uses ordinary people as models for biblical scenes, but he finds that to make them more realistic. So here, here you have the story. Here you have David and Goliath, and David has cut off the head of Goliath, which you can see a little wound right there. Here is the kiss, in which Jesus is about to be taken away from, to go on trial. So there's this emotion, there's this movement, there's people are screaming. The entire the soldiers, who are not dressed in period garb like they would have been dressed as Roman soldiers, but they're dressed as sort of Reformation era Italian soldiers. They're moving in, they're taking Jesus away, who looks penitent and all of that. Peter Paul Rubens, up in the north, works really for the Habsburgs. There's a lot of color and sensuality, and he has lots and lots of nudes. This guy paints nudes all over the place, and his figures tend to be a little bit more rotund, a little bit plumper than usual, leading to the term Rubenesque. So his figures have a little bit more body fat than we've seen, especially in the Renaissance, where everyone is depicted as being either very muscular if you're a man, or relatively thin and well proportioned if you're a woman. And now he starts to portray women as being a little bit larger. Men have larger muscles and all of that, sort of just bigger than general. Here is his elevation of the cross, this moment where they're pulling the cross up. Again, intense movement, intense emotion, meant to sort of bring out that idea of, yes, people are doing this to Jesus. Don't forget that happened. But he also does some pieces which are non-biblical. The Judgment of Paris, this story which starts the Trojan War. Here's Paris over there with the golden apple, trying to figure out which of the three goddesses is the most beautiful. And here is a great example of these Rubenesque figures, that don't have that sort of thin, modern, sort of like supermodel quality that many of the Renaissance figures tended to have. And then finally, his Massacre of the Innocents, this horrific scene, absolutely horrific, depicting the time in which, in order to stop the prophecy of Jesus coming and ruling the Jews, that King Herod sent out people to kill every son, every infant son within his realm. And here you have bodies of babies laying on the ground, women screaming forth, holding back. Even this one's she's scratching this guy's face as he's trying to pull the baby out of her arms. She's holding on. Here this guy has a sword. This woman's hiding. I mean, there's a whole lot going on here, but with this being sort of the main thing. And I want to show you as just a last moment here, if I can figure out how to erase all of this. Yes, we're going to just sort of erase all this because I want to show you that there's also this new look of like setting up an entire piece so that it points and focuses everything towards one place, which is not necessarily in the middle like it was in a lot of the Renaissance places. So I haven't gotten everything, but if you look, there is a geometric move here which draws your attention upward that way to this climactic piece right here of the painting, in which this man is about to dash this baby onto the ground to join these other poor innocents here. So there's a lot of grandeur here. So the Catholic Reformation was all about reaffirming Catholic doctrines, but changing some of the practices of the Catholic Church. It was also, though, about trying to enforce some sort of discipline and bring people back to the faith through the creation of the Jesuits, through the Inquisition, through the Index of Forbidden Books, and then through the commissioning of Baroque art. So that's all the time I have. Hope these are helping. My name's Paul Sargent. Thanks for watching.